What's up, guys? It's Lou from Unbox Therapy, and welcome to the third video, I believe, in the Super MacBook Pro project. Of course, the hardware installation is now done, so we're going to be talking about software, and we're going to be doing some benchmarks. Before we get there, I want to mention that I took the old hard drive that's no longer being used and put it into this simple USB 3 enclosure. That's what I recommend you do if you do an upgrade like this. These things are very, very cheap, and they're very useful because instead of just, throwing the hard drive out, you can use it as a fast USB 3 backup drive. So I will link an enclosure down in the description so you can pick one up if you do an upgrade like this. Now, the next thing to do is, of course, to install the OS because these drives are blank right now. What you want to do is hold down Command and R when booting up. That will get you into the Apple recovery module. Now, it does need to hook up to the web, so you need an internet connection for this to operate. As you can see, the little globe is spinning there. After putting in your network credentials, password, etc., it will go ahead and download the necessary information so that you can boot into the recovery console, which includes a reinstallation button as well as disk utility and some other functions that will be useful to you if you are upgrading your system or if you just want to restore your system. So from here, the first thing we're going to do is access disk utility. That's because we have two blank SSDs in here, the 480 gigabyte Neutron GTX SSDs from Corsair. Everything in this upgrade will be down in the description as well. I'm trying to do that on each of these videos. So you want to make sure that they're being read correctly and that you've installed them correctly. As you can see, I've got two of them here. Now, I have already set up the RAID for a total of 959.52 gigabytes of storage, which is amazing. I'm super pumped about that. But if you are at the early stages of this particular upgrade and you need to still set up the RAID, what you'll do is select either of the two drives, then hit the RAID button, and then from there you can just drag and drop the two hard drives, or SSDs in this case, into this little window right here, and then you can go ahead and hit create for the RAID. Now, in this particular case, we have a striped RAID, which means that you get the full storage capacity of both of your drives with no redundancy. So a little bit of a performance improvement, but no extra redundancy for backup. If you want to have an active mirror of your system drive, you can use RAID 1 instead, and that will give you an always there backup, but it won't give you any performance improvement, and of course you'll only get half the capacity because one drive is constantly running as a backup. So the next thing to do is to reinstall the OS, which I've already done here, and I've gone ahead and set up the system with some benchmarking tools pre-installed so that I can show you guys how this system performs. But before we get there, I do want to mention that you should always check into your About This Mac in order to make sure that everything is being read correctly, and also that the link speed on both of your SSDs is being negotiated correctly. So I'll give you more info on what that means right here. So you want to go into About This Mac and then click on this system report. And from here, you want to scroll down to Serial ATA on the left-hand side. This will give you all the important information on each of your two SATA ports. And as you can see here, the link speed is 6 gigabit on both the traditional hard drive bay as well as the newly created optical drive bay that we used an adapter in order to access. So some people suggested in older videos that you wouldn't get 6 gigabit connection on both of the two ports, but on these new 2012 MacBook Pros, you actually are getting full link speed on both ports. So those people are actually wrong. There's some really good information around the web about this and whether or not your model is compatible. But in this particular case, you get full speed, no performance issues, 6 gigabits on both ports. So we're getting an incredible performance boost here having both of these SSDs installed. Speaking of performance, here is the first benchmark we're going to run. This is the disk speed test from Blackmagic Design, targeted at testing disk speed. So perfect for testing this brand new SSD RAID. The highest figures I came up with after a number of different tests and scenarios was 840.4 megabytes per second write and 932.1 megabytes per second read. These are astronomical figures for a laptop, and the performance, like the real world performance, I mean, is just as good. You can tell it's incredibly snappy. So the next benchmark we want to do is Geekbench 2, and I actually bought the full version finally so I can run it in full Intel 64-bit mode. This takes a couple of seconds, so I'm going to fast forward the actual benchmarking progress so that we can get to the end and get the score figures. This system managed a 13,466 score. That might not mean much to you on its own, but once you put it in context and put it up against some other popular scores from other systems in the Mac universe, it actually comes up pretty damn impressive. The Geekbench score is like an overall score based on a number of different tests to tell you what your system is capable of. So if you open up the Mac benchmark chart on their website, you can see here the top score ever recorded is for the top-of-the-line Mac Pro with 12 cores. You can pretty much assume that would be it. But this is where things get interesting. Ours actually fits in pretty damn well below the 6-core Mac Pro desktop computer. So even though this thing has 4 cores and is, of course, a laptop, it scores pretty much as well as the 6-core Mac Pro and above the top spec 27-inch iMac with a much faster clock speed at 3.4 gigahertz. So that's the one with even the upgraded processor. So this is really an amazing figure for a laptop and beyond the stock systems that you can purchase, consumer stock systems, with the exception of the Mac Pro. So that includes the Retina MacBook Pro top spec that you can order from them. So the next benchmark and the last benchmark is Cinebench release 11.5. This will run 2 separate benchmarks. The first one is OpenGL, and the second one is CPU. This will look at your CPU, of course, as well as your graphics processor. So basically what you're seeing here is 3D graphics, and it's being rendered by the graphics card, and then in the end, it will spit out an FPS rating to tell you how quickly your system was able to deal with rendering those graphics, and then you'll get a score based on that FPS. So this is 40.32 FPS on the OpenGL score. So the next thing we're going to run is the CPU score, and this is a little bit different. Rather than be 3D graphics rendering like moving graphics, this one just renders a really high resolution image like you might be doing in the creative arts, the way you might be using one of these MacBook Pros. And then this will also give you a score, but in a points figure, 7.07 points. And you can also check where this stacks up against other systems. So as you look down here, you'll notice that it actually beats a 3.2 gigahertz Core i7-960 from Intel, which is also a 4-core chip, but a desktop chip. So once again, really, really nice numbers here, but this would be essentially the same, this CPU figure, even if you didn't upgrade this system. It's just a great CPU to begin with. So anyway, guys, that wraps up the performance portion of the Super MacBook Pro project. I'm really excited about this particular system. I'm happy with the way it's performing in the real world. Thanks for watching up until this point. I'm going to put all the Super MacBook Pro videos into one playlist. If you want to go back and watch them, I will link the playlist in the description. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed this project, leave a thumbs up, and I will catch you in the next video. Later.